Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Brandon Kravitz, joined by the Prop Kings, Joe Dellera, Kyle Murray. A reminder that everything that we talk about tonight can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. You can check out Action Pro and take that subscription to the next level. You can get $20 off an annual subscription with the promo code POD20. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro. You won't regret it. That's $20 off with the promo code POD20 at actionnetwork.com/pro. Got a couple of pros with me tonight. We've got lessons learned. We've got stars to give out. I'll get us started, guys, because I'm buzzing right now. I'm not going to lie to you. My lesson tonight is that you are never dead. You are never dead, my friends. I was on the Rockets -4.5 tonight against the Spurs. I chalked that one up as a loss. I stopped watching it. You know, we've all been through this. You move on to the next game. Pretty decent night otherwise, but down 16 at one point. Spurs could not miss. Wemby looks great. They're down 10 going into the fourth quarter, and then Reed Shepherd happened. 29-14, the Rockets outscored the Spurs in the fourth quarter, and the Rockets win by 5. And we win on the hook. Unreal cover. I probably didn't deserve it, but I'm going to take the win and run. Joe, how fortunate am I as I sit here right now? And the lesson that you should never count, just like you should never count a win too early. You should never count a loss too early either.
Yeah, no, it's painful for me because we were talking about this right before we got on because I was on a Jabari under, and like you said, the Rockets just kind of went crazy to end that game, and I lost the Jabari under, kind of in like hit 2 shots back to back, hit like a crazy like corner 3, and now I'm talking about a bad beat for too long. So that's gonna be my lesson is gonna be, you don't dwell on the losses. Like it is what it is. You got to move on. You progress. You move to the next play. You move to the next day. It just happens. So I am happy to be the sacrificial lamb though for both you and Kyle, because I think my lost bet cashed both of yours. So that was a great thing. So we'll take that 2-for-1 opportunity every time. So my lesson though is just you lose a bet, move on. That's why you have a unit structure and you're not sweating a loss, and you can keep moving forward. That's the name of the game. So keep it up.
Sometimes variance works in your favor. Sometimes it doesn't. And Kyle, we tend to remember the losses in those situations way more than the wins. And it's one of the reasons why, for me, on a selfish level, I want to focus on this unlikely win. And I feel bad for those that were on the Spurs because you're on the other side of this. You experienced the antithesis of what I'm talking about here. But I think as sports bettors, we tend to remember those moments when we get hooked in the wrong direction, and we quickly forget that variance sometimes very much works in our favor.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think when you lose, you can end up find yourself point shaving, right? Oh, like my guy missed out on a rebound chance here, or for example, the other day on Monday, I had Giannis and his PRA over 44.5. He finished with 44, had 5 missed free throws. So you can point shave a lot, right? So that makes it stick in your brain a little bit more. It'll certainly live with you. But I will say, when you had the wins that feel like they you lucked out, or maybe you ran pure at the end there, mm-hmm. I think it just makes you kind of appreciate that a little bit more, because we have so many bad beats that we've all experienced, especially when you're doing this every single day and as often as we are, and a lot of times with such high volume, especially during the NBA season as we are. So have to enjoy those good luck runouts. I think one thing I learned, obviously you guys both gave great lessons as well on the the mental of betting, but I think one thing that I'm learning here is the Warriors might be in some trouble. I know this is the ultimate bad spot for them, second half of a back-to-back, first game without Jimmy Butler, but yeah, it looks pretty rough, especially defensively. I mean, 70 points allowed against the Raptors in the first half. Obviously, the Raptors are a decent team, but the Warriors have been, sticking to a lot of these, not necessarily a top team in the West by any means, but a team with, at least some real playoff aspirations and whatnot because of their defensive I guess, emphasis, and that was clearly not on display here in this one without Jimmy Butler. So obviously it's a huge bummer to lose Jimmy Butler for the season. So hopefully the Warriors can, find some semblance. I will say, though, the quote that we got from Mike Dunleavy today about Jonathan Kuminga, he said, if you're going to demand a trade, there has to be demand. And that was the ultimate mic drop quote. So I had to bring that onto the show because that was awesome. So, that was something that I needed to say, that I definitely learned that you can get humbled real quick if you're a player, just by the GM dropping a quote in the press.
And the Warriors were taking money towards the close as well. That line was sitting at 3.5 for most of the day. I think it wound up closing at 4.5. So a lot of Warriors sentiment, and perhaps it was that thought of the back the team with the fallen star. I know he's not the top of the line star, of course, with that Golden State Warriors team, but banding together and figuring out a way to get by, at least in a short sample. Maybe that's why folks were backing the Warriors. And any read on that, Joe, as to why, even with the Butler news, we saw money coming in on Golden State ahead of this game with Toronto, where they're right now they're getting smashed.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that people and generally tend to overreact to players being out, and you see spreads move, and a lot of times it's not necessarily indicative of how much that player is actually worth to the spread. So I think that's maybe what we were seeing here. I'm not I'm not the biggest spread better, but I obviously understand the idea behind it, right? And if you have Jimmy Butler, I think now you probably say Jimmy Butler is maybe a 3-ish point to the spread value type of guy. And if you see the spread moving in a way where you're well, this seems to be a little bit light at this point. Warriors have been good. Some of the advanced metrics are still favorable. That's a spot where you're saying I don't, that people might have looked at it and said, well, I don't really think that this is a pick 'em on a neutral court. I think the Warriors are better even without Jimmy Butler. So I think that's probably why you saw that type of move. But I agree with Kyle. Overall, this Warriors team, I think, is in a dangerous position. One of my bets going into the season was for the Warriors to miss the playoffs. And a big part of the cap was I was just this team's old. Somebody's going to get hurt. And you don't want anybody to get hurt, and you don't really bet on injury at the same time. But looking at what the team, and how they were composed, it's you're dealing with this team that has a variety of players that have suffered injuries that held them out for, weeks, if not months at a time, between Steph, Draymond, and then obviously now, Jimmy Butler too. So I'm curious to see what they do. That Jimmy Butler contract is something that's not necessarily going to be movable either. Obviously it's a huge contract. You could bring in somebody with that, but I don't really know what the market is going to be for, $56 million in essentially cap space. Is Jimmy even going to play again? Period.
Yeah, he's 36 years old with a torn ACL. It's not the first time he's had an injured knee. I don't know if it's the same knee or what, but either way, I mean, the fact that you have a guy that's pushing closer to 40 at this point, coming off of a torn ACL in the NBA, where this isn't the NFL where guys can come back in 9 months. This is a full year plus injury with the way that these guys plant and pivot on that hardwood. I don't think we see him play again with Golden State. Do we see him play again? I guess that's up to him, but it'll be more of a retirement tour package for Jimmy Butler. Here's one thing, though, that I think some folks are going to look and say, okay, well, I'll bet Golden State maybe to miss the playoffs. I don't think they're falling out. To miss the playoffs, okay, but if you're betting them to not make the play-in, all the teams that are below them, that are below that line, have no interest in winning. So keep that in mind as you look forward to the potential offseason for the Golden State Warriors. How do you see it, Kyle?
Yeah, I think I do agree. I think we probably won't see them fall out of the play-in, but it'll certainly be interesting to see if they adapt at all. And obviously, on the bright side, if you wanted to look for a silver lining, I guess this is probably better to happen now if it was going to happen during the course of the season, because now at least they have the opportunity to make a trade at the deadline if that's something that they want to do. I'm not sure if they're fully sold on doing that, but it will be interesting. One other quick point. We went live and we were talking a little bit about Anthony Edwards. We went live, he had 29 points, up to 38. He scored 9 straight. for the T-Wolves. There, yeah. So I know Joe and I were both on some ladder stuff for Anthony Edwards. So hopefully he can get in 2 more. Maybe they push overtime somehow. I don't know exactly where that game's at right now, but he did just miss a 3. So
I don't know if this one's going to overtime. They're down by 4, 15 seconds left. So
I think they're getting the ball back. So we'll see. But at least as long as he can get to 40, that would be sick.
Yeah. Hey, crazier things have happened. We'll keep our fingers crossed, hold our breath, I guess.
Yeah, crazier things have happened, especially when the Utah Jazz are involved. But
and I think that just hit maybe it cashed a parlay for our producer David Payne, or at least got him one leg closer. We'll have to get an update on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I see in the private chat I get a big all caps "Let's go."
Yep.
So
I can't keep track of all of David's degenerate parlays that he takes from us.
Seriously,
he said cashed it plus 560. Put it on the board.
Quietly, our producer might be the most active in the betting market amongst us all. You know who else is really active? Matt Moore. Let's hear from him.
The Buckets podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have the shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
One final note on the Jazz and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought that it was only Minnesota against good teams where we couldn't trust them, not against the bottom dwellers. What are they doing? This team. Can somebody please, if I try backing them in the playoffs, can one of you reach through the screen and punch me clean across the face? This team is not to be trusted.
The thing is, though, this is what they do. They're just the biggest enigma in the entire NBA, I think. So they just are. They're so much fun, though. And all the metrics look great. All the metrics look fantastic. So I don't know. I might still reach down and grab you out of Florida, though.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, do your best. All right, let's get to it. 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. My dog's excited about it. Joe, get us started.
All right, so for my 3-star play, look, I have to do it. Matt, also, side note, as a preface to this play, I spoke with Matt Moore, and he said because of the Knicks struggles lately, that this can officially be a Knicks podcast because he wants to talk about how much pain I'm in. So the number one thing that I have to do now is we have to make our 3-star play Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points. It is an absolute must bet to me in this spot, I think, for a variety of different reasons. Number one, I like the spot against this Brooklyn Nets team for Cat. So the Knicks are getting that, the hometown type of matchup. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets on Wednesday night, and Cat has performed really well against Brooklyn kind of throughout his career. And over the past couple of seasons, the fewest points he scored against the Brooklyn Nets is 25. This season, he's got 37 and 28 points. I really like this look here for Cat, and a lot of it has to do with the scheme as well. I think that he is a little bit of a mismatch issue for what Brooklyn has defensively. And the Knicks, Jalen Brunson just called a players-only meeting after they've lost 9 out of their last 11 games. And I think that this is a spot where they're able to kind of coalesce. Everybody's going to focus together. This is a team that you want to beat. It's like the hometown, like the little brother. You want to be able to beat them. You want to lock in, and you want to make sure that you win this game. That really, you should win this game. This is a game that you have to win. You have to start beating some of these bad teams and get back on track. So at over 20.5 points, I think it's just a little bit light. I think that overall it's a little bit of a buy low spot from a narrative perspective, but he's actually played pretty well over the past couple of games. He had 22 points against Dallas, 23 points against Phoenix, but he had struggled kind of leading into that. So I think that when you couple kind of the narrative around that, that's why you're seeing this 20.5 points line. And this matchup against Brooklyn is just too good for me. He's been excellent as a spot-up shooter, and Brooklyn obviously kind of tends to struggle against some of the things that Cat does, whether it's, being able to score within the paint and being able to stretch it out from beyond the arc. So at 20.5, I think it's a good spot for Carl, and I'm going to back him as my 3-star play.
The Nets have been pretty bad around the rim, and for how bad they are in general, decent defensively in terms of defending the mid-range and the three-point shot. So I look, I like this. I have a counter to the Knicks locking back in as one of my stars I'll get to in a moment, but Cat right now statistically is not the problem. 22 points, 18 rebounds in that last game for the Knicks. Any issue with backing a Knick as they feel like a toxic stay away zone, Kyle?
No issue. I think it's a decent chance that they're obviously super motivated to bounce back here. They've obviously been on the massive losing skid as of late, like Joe mentioned. My model has been on the under for some Brunson props, so I don't mind buying on Cat here. So yeah, I have no quarrels with this one.
Where are we looking? 3-star play for you?
Yeah, I'm going to the Charlotte-Cleveland game, which has a surprising 2.5-point spread here. I'm taking the over 20.5 points and assists for Con Knipple. I think there's a lot of potential buy low spots here on the Charlotte team, just because they've been in a lot of blowouts as of late, back-to-back games where we haven't seen these players, see upper tier in terms of their minutes. Knipple, for example, has played 29 and then 27 minutes in the last 2 games. They obviously blew out Denver and they got blown out by the Warriors in their last 2. And this is a fantastic spot for Knipple, who obviously is going to be very trigger happy from 3. And this Cavs team allows the 6th most threes per game, but the most efficient 3-point shooting to their opponents in terms of matchups so far this season. So it's a great 3-point spot for Knipple. You can argue it's one of the best, if not the best, matchups for 3-point shooters in this spot. We know he's going to chuck it from 3. His volume has actually been a little bit low as of late. Over his last 5 games, only averaging right around 4.5 attempts from 3 per game. That could be obviously because you see LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges all healthy, but nonetheless, if you get a game where we're going to see 6-7 attempts there for Knipple, he has all the ability to go out there and make 4 or 5 of them. So high efficiency spot from 3 for me. I project him for 19.9 points alone. So again, could easily clear this number on points alone. I do think this number will move up a little bit in the market to 21.5, maybe 22.5, but nonetheless, also adding on a 3.6 assist projection as well, while his 3.5 assist prop has some pretty significant juice towards the over. So I think that there's some value on the assist prop as well. So just comboing these two, because again, I do think Knipple could easily get this done on points alone, but also has some value in the assist category as well. So give me the over on Conrad Knipple and his 20.5 points in assist play.
Yeah, Conrad, one of the more responsible Charlotte Hornets that they have. And I'll add a little narrative seasoning to this. This is a primetime game on ESPN for the Charlotte Hornets, a spot that I cannot recall them being in quite some time. Now, usually these teams that aren't used to the spotlight like this get smacked around by the good teams. To me, from a spread perspective, it is Cavs or nothing. But Con Knipple is a trustable Hornet. I kind of like this look, especially with that prime time. Perhaps we get some of the best from Con. You like it, Joe?
Yeah, I do. This was a play that I was kind of looking at. I never really add on his assist, but I think Kyle's analysis is solid with this. I was looking at the 17.5 points. I just was a little nervous, but I think Kyle kind of got me there. So I'll probably be betting this myself in a minute.
Hey, early bird gets the worm. So if you need to step to the side to do that, we understand. I'm sure our producer
David's already locked it in.
for what it's worth, on his potential assist, I do think that there has been some potential room for some positive regression over his last 8 or 9 games. He's seen 6 potential assists or more in all but 2 of those games. So I think I forgot to include that part in the analysis, but maybe one last pitch I can make to Joe to seal him on the points and assist combo.
I love it. I'm in.
Yeah, arm officially twisted. My my 3-star play is the Atlanta Hawks plus 2.5 against the Memphis Grizzlies. Major fade here for a team flying across the Atlantic Ocean to play in this one. The Grizzlies spent the last week in London and in Germany, and I'm guessing that it's going to take them a minute to reacclimate themselves, especially considering they're playing against a team that hasn't played since early on Monday. The Hawks are the first game on MLK Day, major rest disadvantage. And then on top of it, and it's one of those rest disadvantages that if you look at the days off, it doesn't tell the whole story. When you have to reacclimate your body to a completely different time zone in a different continent, that those days off aren't real days off. That's just you trying to get your body clock back. So, Memphis looked great in their last game against the Orlando Magic, but this has not been a team that you want to place a bet on after a win. 6-11 against the spread after the Grizzlies win a basketball game. That's the 5th worst mark in the NBA in that particular situation. And Atlanta, as dead as they've looked lately, actually showed some life in their last game against Milwaukee. Had they not dug themselves into a ridiculous hole, they were down by like 23 points against Milwaukee. Atlanta scored 70 points in the second half. I think they might be figuring things out offensively with this new rotation. Now becomes the buy point for the Atlanta Hawks, especially against a team that's traveling back from their overseas endeavors, which I'm sure they had a ball. So I'll be taking the Atlanta Hawks. Joe, any feedback on that?
I do like it. I think that like Atlanta has looked a little rough lately, and I do wonder after that absolute debacle of a possession from CJ McCollum to end that game against the Bucks on Martin Luther King Day, if there's maybe like a little bit of a realignment and saying, get Jalen Johnson the fucking ball, because that was just unacceptable. Like that was insane. Like he looked at him as he was like falling down and then just chucked it up. Like I've never seen this. Awful. So I do think this is a good spot to buy Atlanta after that kind of rough loss and obviously sell on a team coming back from Europe. So I love this look from a spot perspective on really both sides.
Kyle, the look of the team coming back from overseas, it's another one. If you wanted to target the other team that played in an overseas situation, Thursday got a great opportunity. I will be on tomorrow night's episode, so perhaps I will trumpet this as well. But the Hornets on the second night of a back-to-back, they take on the Magic. The Magic also trying to reacclimate themselves. So we don't get a lot of these opportunities, Kyle, where you get to look at fading a team that's coming back from Europe. It's more of an NFL thing than it is in the NBA.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it kind of reminds me of the NFL fades, especially when you have that random situation where obviously NFL tries to get a team a bye when they're coming back from London or Europe. But there have been a couple of times over the past couple of years where they haven't had a bye, and it's been a potential fade spot. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good narrative spot that you can also potentially factor in, that the books and the lines maybe aren't as used to factoring those into, which is always a good thing to look for, especially in highly efficient markets like we have in the NBA.
Yep, I completely agree, and I think that because it's so rare, there's not a built-in price for it, and that creates a buying opportunity. My 2-star play, I wouldn't say it runs opposed to Joe Dellera's love for Karl Anthony Towns, but baked within your cap, I kind of disagree. I'm not sure that the Knicks are bouncing back. This team is off. Back-to-back losses against the Mavericks and the Kings, and it's not like that's it. They've lost 9 of their last 11. They're getting booed at home. This is one of those where they've got to show it to me before I feel like they can take my money in betting against them. Like, I'm just not scared of betting against the Knicks is what I'm saying. The Knicks have been blown out, they've blown out the Nets twice. That was in November. So that was November Knicks, not the current form. Brooklyn, bad basketball team, so this can always go sideways when you bet these bottom-tier rosters. So that's why it gets the 2-star tag. But I think this is a good bet to add to your portfolio. And just in case we are extra right about this, plus 410 on the money line, a little sprinkle on the Brooklyn Nets to win the game outright. How wrong am I to back Brooklyn in this spot?
Honestly, I hope that they can keep it close enough because that means that Cat's going to see his normal rotation of minutes. So I think that you're right. Like in terms of the spread, I do think that Brooklyn's been really like plucky lately. So it's just a matter of who's in, who's out. They've been a little like weird with their injury reporting. You know, they're resting guys. They're just doing a lot of injury management. But overall, Brooklyn, the main thing is their defense has been really solid of late. And I mean, like, really solid in terms of like bad team defense. They've been pretty solid overall. And I do think that it's a decent look, especially, I mean, like you're basically saying, keep it within double digits, like keep it in the single digits. It's fine. I don't think that that's totally out of the realm here. So hopefully we both can cash on this one.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, we always look at things through the numbers perspective, but I'm thinking about this also from the headline on SportsCenter the next morning. If the Knicks win by 8, the story is going to be they're back. The Knicks figured it out. Yeah. Team meeting, got everybody back on track. Meanwhile, we're cashing the ticket on the underdog. So all of these things can kind of be true at once. You know, Kyle, when I look at a favorite like this that is just simply not playing like one, I'm typically, you're in a better situation buying low on a team and not, buying into the dip. But I mean, sometimes I just don't think that the power ratings have adjusted enough to how bad this team has been, and they're still getting respect that currently they don't deserve. And that's kind of what I'm looking at betting against. You are either muted or you are miming to us, right?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was muted. I had a train going in the background, so I was trying to keep that out of your guys' ears. But I actually think that your guys' plays will end up correlating pretty well, because obviously, like Joe mentioned, that'll lead to 32, 33 plus minutes for Cat. So I think that could end up actually working out pretty well as like a pairing here. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think it's pretty hard to have any confidence back in the Knicks, and you don't really necessarily fear them. And 11 has a lot of points still in the NBA regardless. So even if the Knicks do, get it together and maybe have like a little bit of a bounce back, 11.5 points is still a lot, especially for two teams who like to play slow. So maybe you just have a closer game just naturally based on, the pace of the game. And Free Sauce mentioned Michael Porter Jr., who's never seen a bad shot, could make 6 threes tomorrow. This is a team that the Knicks, they allow a lot of threes. And if MPJ and Cam Thomas get hot from 3, we could easily see them have some big performances. So I like the cap.
All right, we're on to the 2 stars. Kyle, give it to me. Who are we looking at with the Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, got to go to my hometown team for once here. I'm looking at Jalen Duren taking the over 16.5 points. The model likes it quite a bit here. Did consider the points and rebounds prop, which I know we're going to touch on in a little bit. But Duren's just the guy who I think that you can continuously kind of bet on some value here in his points prop, because his usage rate has actually been pretty significant this year. Obviously, they have such an elite pick and roll situation there with him and Cade Cunningham, and this is a great matchup for him here against the Pelicans, who allow the second most field goals made and the third most points in the paint allowed in the NBA. So that obviously sets up pretty well for Jalen Duren. Would like to see this game stay close here. So maybe with an 8.5 point spread, if this game does stay close enough to where we see 31, 32 minutes for Jalen Duren instead of 27, 28. I think that there could be some real upside. I project him for 18.7 points in 28 minutes. So pretty conservative minutes projection, and still getting him over the 16.5 points prop. So I like the over on that one there with that 18.7 point projection. And obviously, really good matchup. But I know we're going to touch on that a little bit more, as I think Joe is also on Jalen Duren.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, go ahead. Just take it from here. Continue to wax poetic on the double-double machine.
I know. So I'm actually going to be on his double-double. I saw this priced pretty poorly when we were getting ready to record at like -130. So if this, I think it might have gotten bumped up a little bit since we started, but I don't mind it still. I think that Kyle's look at the points is really the pivot, to be honest with you. The rebounding has been like a little bit inconsistent, but I think that it's a great spot against the Pelicans, who just tend to allow a ton of rebounds in general. They're also playing at a top 10 pace. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities, I think, think, for some of these big men rebounds. We've seen some huge rebounding games from centers as well. Like AD had 17. Claxton, who's not necessarily a big rebounder, had 11. Jokic has had double digits as well. Obviously, Steven Adams just put up 10. So I do think it's a pretty good spot for Duren as a rebounder. But I do tend to agree with Kyle. Like if you are looking for a pivot, this defense has been really, really soft on the interior. Zion, we know, is not necessarily like a great interior presence, even though he just tends to be on the interior. And then Derek Queen is just, he's a rookie. He's a kid still. And Jalen Duren is a grown-ass man. Like that's a good matchup for him on the interior. Can definitely see a lot of lobs here for him against this Pelicans defense. So I think if I had to go, I don't think I would go to the PR. I think I would go to the points like Powell was mentioning.
Yeah, Derek Queen, I think, is going to be a really special player in this league, but he still has that rookie baby face to him.
Yeah.
Now what you want going up against Duren, who looks like an NFL linebacker. And, yeah, they just don't have a true center. They don't have anybody that's just down there to grab boards. And the numbers back this up. The Pelicans are 26th in defensive rebound rate, 22nd overall. And the Pistons in general should absolutely smash them on the boards. And if they're doing that, then we know that it's going to be Jalen Duren getting it done. All right, 1-star plays. Let's go around the horn for these. I like Jaylen Brown. I'll go with another. Jalen's are getting a lot of love on the show tonight. Over 37.5 points plus rebounds. This is the third meeting of the season against the Pacers. He's scored 30 and 31 in each. 12 total rebounds, so he's 1-1 on this prop against Indiana this season. But if you look at what Brown has been doing from a rebounding perspective, 7 or more in 7 of his last 8. Smash spot for the Celtics, too, coming off of that loss to the aforementioned Pistons. Brown announced as an all-star, a starter on the all-star team. I think this could be one of those watch me games where, you know, he goes up against a Pacers team that has thrown in the towel at this point. They're one of the worst rebounding teams, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. So I like Jaylen Brown to smash that number, 37.5 points and rebounds. How does that line up with the model, Kyle?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I haven't projected for 33 points alone and also adding 7.5 rebounds. So, almost 40 points and rebounds in this one. Good matchup here against Pacers team likes to play fast, 11th in pace. So, yeah, the model also likes the Jaylen Brown play.
All right, take it from here. What do you got? 1-star play on the night.
Yeah, I'm staying in that game. I will admit that there's a little bit of entertainment value with this play here, but it also it grades out as a strong play for me. It grades out as a top 20 bet for me in my model. And a lot of the guys in the top 20 are, duplicates of different players in certain player combos. So Johnny Furphy over 4.5 points is the play for me.
You're in the game, but you are on the fringes of the game, my friend.
Honestly, we typically don't see lines like this. So it caught my eye initially. And then I will say, looking into it, these Pacers guys, there have been some under spots that I'd like to bet, especially it was these centers and some of these other ancillary pieces whenever we get numbers on them, because they're just so volatile with their minutes. But I think we can actually lean into that a little bit because this number is so low for Johnny Furphy at 4.5. I projected him at 22 minutes. And in that time, 6.6 points is where I have him projected. And I will preface that by saying there is a lot of volatility on that minutes projection. He could easily play 14 minutes. He could easily play 28 minutes. So there is a lot of volatility there, but I think we actually lean into that because this number is so low, so that it does project as an overplay for me. But, looking into maybe some reasons why it projects so well is a 3-point matchup, right? So when you look at Johnny Furphy, over the past 4 games, we've seen him take a total of 11 3-point attempts. Obviously, playing time can certainly, create a little bit of a roller coaster situation there. But the matchup here is a good one. Boston allowing the 5th most threes, 6th most attempts per game from beyond the arc. So I think there's a chance that we see maybe a couple of 3-pointers for Johnny Furphy. Certainly think that he could be a guy who projects for, 4 or 5 attempts here. If he gets 1 or 2 to go in, obviously that does a lot of, if not all the work on this very small 4.5 point prop here. So give me the over on Johnny Furphy, 4.5 points. I do think that this one moves up to 5.5. Wouldn't even be surprised if it gets up to 6.5. So that is another reason why I like this number at 4.5.
Yeah, some blowout potential in this game as well. That does not hurt matters. If you put in a Jaylen Brown over and Johnny Furphy over parlay, you will be one of the only people in this great nation that does that over the next 24 hours. What about you, Joe?
I'm gonna be. I love this play.
How about Free Sauce says we are in the trenches betting Johnny Furphy.
Well, at least this name might be a little bit more of a household name for you guys compared to Johnny Furphy. But I'm gonna be on Luka Garza over 11.5 PR. I think that this line is a little bit light considering what his minutes have been over the last, 15 or so games. He's really looked. He's really been kind of thrust into a bigger role. Over his last 15 games, he's averaging 20.7 minutes per game, which I think is the important part here. And he's just getting a lot more run. And he's a guy that I think a lot of people had maybe written off as, maybe not going to necessarily be a productive NBA player. But naturally, you put him on the Boston Celtics, and all of a sudden they're playable in every matchup on the planet. And over these last 15 games where he's averaging 20.7 points per game or minutes per game, he's averaging 13.9 PR, 9.5 points, 5.4 rebounds over this line in 13 of those 15 games. So I think this is a really good spot. He only played 15 minutes against Detroit last time out there. But I do think that in part that is a little bit matchup based when you're dealing with, guys like Duran or Isaiah Stewart that are a little bit like beefier literally beefier with beef stew on the interior. But I do think this is a great matchup for him against the Indiana Pacers. They're pretty weak on the interior. And they also really struggle to defend pick and roll man here, which is what Garza's been awesome as, because Garza not only can roll to the rim, but he can pop as well because he's been a pretty good 3-point shooter. He's kind of added that to his arsenal as well. So it gives a little bit of versatility to this Boston Celtics lineup. And I think that he's just going to be able to continue rolling here. I would take this. It's at 11.5. I'm grabbing some 11.5 now, but if it goes to 12.5, I don't really mind that either. I think the matchup's great.
I think we got you on mute.
Yeah, you pulled the mat.
2-1 Joe.
Oh no!
That was definitely a good joke too. I could tell.
It'll just have to live in mystery. Double muted show. And we got a Johnny Furphy parlay. We are peaking right now. Okay, Buckets is peaking. Right. It can only go downhill from here. Quick recap on the plays. Hawks plus 2.5. Against the Memphis Grizzlies, my 3-star play. Kyle Murray's on Conrad over 20.5 points and assists. Joe Dellera, Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points. 2-star plays. I'm on the Nets plus 11.5 against the sliding Knickerbockers. Jalen Duren over 16.5 points for Kyle Murray. And Joe Dellera is going to back that up with a Jalen Duren double-double. 1-star plays. We have what we have collected as, I guess, an accidental SGP in the Pacers-Celtics game. Jaylen Brown over 37.5 points and rebounds. Johnny Furphy, because why not, at over 4.5 points. And Luka Garza over 11.5 points and rebounds. Make sure you go to that Action Network app and track all of these plays, and you can copy them right into your favorite sports book, which we hope is DraftKings. Before we get out of here, it's time for our Shack Pack breakdown presented by DraftKings. Make sure to opt into the Shack Pack promo, and you'll get a boost on a double-double parlay. So let's have some fun with some double-doubles. I'm going to look the way of Ja Morant. Of course, I'm looking for him to get there on points and assists. Ja trying to prove his own worth in Memphis at the moment. 2 straight double-doubles the last 2 times he's played, getting his teammates more involved. Hawks defense has been shaky as of late. Let's look for Ja to carry the squad. Kyle, who are we looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to Moussa Diabate in this one, who has been not necessarily a double-double machine, but in the games where he's played at least 25 minutes, 14 of those games, he does have 5 double-doubles, so I like this one here. A good matchup, a decent matchup here for him in the spot against the Cavaliers, who my model seems to really like the rebounding spot here for this game for a lot of guys, not necessarily even just some of these bigs here. He will obviously have his hands full, but I think that'll also potentially lead to some more time on the floor for him here. Obviously, they're going to need his size, so I'm going to take the double-double for Moussa Diabate.
Let's go back to the well with the Pistons big man, Jalen Duren. Give it to me, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to the well. I'll have the chalky play tonight. So I like Duren on the double-double as my 2-star play. I see no reason not to throw it in here as one of the the hopeful safe leg here in the 3-leg parlay.
Got to have one. Got to have the anchor. John Morant, double-double. Musa Diabate, double-double. Jalen Duren, double-double. That is your Shaq Pack double-double breakdown presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. That will do it for us in tonight's wild episode. If you want to tail any of these bets, look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. Big thanks to Kyle Murray and Joe Dellera, true living legends in the props game. Hat tip to David Payne, who has most assuredly placed all of these bets already. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring today's episode. We'll see you next time. And until then, let's get buckets.